The silence in space was broken by the massive shadow of the Coalition dreadnought Stellar Dominion. The ship was 3 kilometers long and filled with the galaxy's most feared warriors. Commander Vex Thul stood on the bridge, his crystal-like skin reflecting the cold light from the stars. His forearms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. "Target acquired, Commander," said Sub-Commander Nalthos. His voice carried the weight of 1,000 battles. "The human vessel is exactly where our scouts reported." Vexthul studied the smaller ship on his screen. The human vessel looked strange, compared to Coalition ships. It was white and blue, with odd curves instead of sharp angles. Most surprising of all, it had windows. Real windows that showed the inside of the ship. No military vessel in the galaxy had windows. Windows were weak, points that enemies could exploit. "Run a deep scan," Vexthul ordered. "I want to know everything about this Deathworld ship." The scanner operator, a young warrior named Krixtal, worked at his station. His thick, armored fingers moved quickly over the controls. After a few moments, his face went pale. Even his natural armor seemed to dim. "Commander," Krixtal said, his voice shaking slightly, "the bio readings, they don't make sense." "Explain," Vexthul demanded. "There are definitely humans aboard, 43 of them, but there are also other creatures. The scanner shows at least 60 additional life forms. Some are small, but others—" Krixtal paused, checking his readings again. "Some register as apex predators, large ones. Their bite force readings are off the charts." Sub-Commander Nalthos moved closer to the scanner station. "Are they prisoners? Food animals?" "I don't think so, sir. They're moving freely throughout the ship, and the strangest part is that they seem to be living alongside the humans, in the same areas. Sometimes even in the same rooms." Vexthul felt his warrior instincts kick in. Every military database in the Coalition said the same thing about Deathworld. Species. They were dangerous, unpredictable, and impossible to work with. Earth was rated as a Class 7 Deathworld, the highest rating possible. The fact that humans had survived on such a planet meant they were the ultimate predators. But if they were ultimate predators, why were they sharing their ship with other predators? It made no sense. Unless... Perhaps they're using the creatures as living weapons, Nalthos suggested. "Some species train battle beasts." "Possible," Vexthul agreed. "But our intelligence report said humans were curious and friendly in their transmissions. That doesn't fit the profile of a species that uses living weapons." The communication officer suddenly straightened. "Commander, incoming transmission from the human vessel." On screen, the image that appeared made every warrior on the bridge step back. The human who appeared was smaller than expected, with soft-looking skin and no visible weapons. He had dark hair and kind eyes. He smiled when he saw them, showing his teeth. In most species, showing teeth was a threat display, but somehow this human's teeth showing looked welcoming. "Greetings," the human said in perfect Coalition standard. "I am Taemin Kim, diplomatic representative of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We are honored to make first contact with your people." Vexthul had prepared for this moment for months. He had studied human psychology reports and practiced intimidation techniques, but something about this Taemin Kim threw him off balance. The human seemed genuinely happy to see them. "I am Commander Vexthul of the Void Hunters," he replied, trying to sound as commanding as possible. "You are in violation of Coalition, Space." Taemin's smile didn't fade. "We apologize if we've caused any concern. We're simply explorers. We came hoping to meet new friends among the stars." He paused, tilting his head slightly. "Would you like to come aboard for a formal meeting? Our captain, Jiwoo Park, would be honored to welcome you." The bridge fell silent. In all of Vexthul's experience, enemy ships didn't invite boarding parties aboard for friendly meetings. They either surrendered completely or fought to the death. "Commander," Nalthos whispered, "this could be a trap." Vexthul considered this. The human ship was much smaller than theirs. Even if it was a trap, his warriors could handle whatever these Deathworlders threw at them. Besides, his orders were clear. Establish contact and assess the threat level. "We accept your invitation," Vexthul said finally. But we come armed and ready for any surprises. Taemin's expression didn't change. Of course, we understand you need to follow your protocols. Oh, I should mention, my companion is resting in my quarters, so she won't be joining us for the meeting. She had a big day playing in the recreation area. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Companion, Crixtall whispered. Deathworld predators don't have companions. They have temporary hunting alliances at best. And what did he mean by playing? Asked another warrior. Do they mean combat training? Vexthul's mind raced. Everything they knew about Deathworld species said they were solitary hunters or, at most, formed small packs for specific hunts. But this human spoke about his companion, the way Coalition citizens spoke about their family members. Sir, the scanner operator called out, I'm detecting some unusual activity on their ship. It looks like they're moving the creatures around, repositioning them. Battle formations, Nalthos asked. I don't think so. It looks more like I don't know how to describe it. It's like they're putting the creatures in specific locations for comfort rather than strategy. Vexthul made his decision. Prepare the boarding shuttle. Full combat gear, but keep weapons on low power settings. We go in ready for anything, but we don't want to start a war if this really is just a diplomatic meeting. As the warriors prepared their equipment, Vexthul couldn't shake a strange feeling. Something about this encounter was different from anything in their military handbooks. These humans didn't act like any Deathworld species on record. The shuttle. Bay doors opened and the Void Hunters began their journey to the human ship. None of them could imagine what they were about to discover. None of them were prepared for what Deathworlders called pets. In the scanner room, readings continued to show the impossible. Dozens of apex predators living peacefully alongside the galaxy's most dangerous species. The data made no sense, but it was about to change everything the Coalition thought they knew about Earth and its people. The shuttle attached to the human ship with a soft thump. Commander Vexthul checked his weapon one last time before standing up. Around him, 12 of the Coalition's finest warriors did the same. Each warrior wore full combat armor that could stop plasma blasts and protect against most known toxins. Remember, Vexthul said to his team, these are Deathworlders. Stay alert for any signs of aggression. Watch for ambush tactics and battle formations. The airlock opened with a quiet hiss. Vexthul expected to see armed guards or at least defensive barriers. Instead, he found a single human woman waiting for them. She wore a simple blue uniform with no visible weapons. Her dark hair was tied back neatly, and she smiled when she saw them. Welcome aboard the New Horizon, she said, bowing slightly. I am Haewon Lee, Chief Security Officer. Captain Jiwoo Park is waiting for you in the conference room. Vexthul blinked all four of his eyes. This human claimed to be their chief security officer, but she looked completely defenseless. Where were her weapons? Her armor? Her backup guards? You are their security chief? Sub-Commander Nalthos asked, unable to hide his confusion. That's right, Haewon replied cheerfully. Don't worry about your weapons. We understand you need to keep them for your own safety protocols. As they walked through the corridors, Vexthul noticed something very strange. The walls were painted in soft colors, blues and greens that reminded him of peaceful skies and growing plants. Coalition warships were always gray or black, colors that hid battle damage and intimidated enemies, but the sounds were even stranger. From somewhere in the distance came a rhythmic thumping noise. It was steady and repetitive, like a warrior pounding on a drum before battle. Mixed in with it were occasional howling sounds that made every Coalition warrior tense up and reach for their weapons. What are those sounds? Crixtall whispered to his commander. Before Vexthul could answer, a new human appeared from a side corridor. This one was younger, with kind eyes and gentle movements. He carried a bowl of something that smelled like meat. Oh, hello, the human said when he saw them. I'm Young Ho Nam, medical officer. Sorry about the noise. We had to move feeding time because of the diplomatic meeting. The Coalition warriors exchanged nervous glances. Feeding time? Were the humans about to feed prisoners to their shipboard predators? That would explain the howling sounds. Many savage species kept captured enemies as food sources during long space voyages. Feeding time? Nalthos asked carefully. Yes, Young-Ho said, completely unaware of the tension he was causing. Everyone gets excited when it's mealtime, especially the big ones. They know the routine by now. He continued down the corridor, humming quietly to himself. The warriors watched him go, their hands never leaving their weapons. By the void, whispered one of the warriors. They're talking about feeding time like it's normal. How many prisoners do they keep on this ship? Hei-Wan, who had been listening to their whispered conversation, looked confused. Prisoners? We don't have any prisoners. Young-Ho was talking about our companions' dinner time. Companions? Vexthul asked. The same companions your diplomat mentioned? Of course, we have 43 crew members and 67 companions aboard. It gets pretty busy during feeding time, as you can imagine. The math was terrifying. 67 battle beasts on one ship? Even coalition dreadnoughts rarely carried more than 20 combat creatures, and those were kept in secure cages between battles. As they walked deeper into the ship, more sounds reached their ears. There was scratching coming from behind, several doors as if large creatures were trying to claw their way out. Sometimes they heard what sounded like territorial marking calls, deep, threatening sounds that made the warriors' combat training kick in automatically. Another human appeared from around a corner. This one was older and wore a different uniform. He carried strange tools that the coalition warriors didn't recognize. Hi there, the human said with a friendly wave. I'm Boram Choi, ship's engineer. Sorry if things seem a bit chaotic. We're doing maintenance on the companion zones today. Companion zones? Vexthul asked. Special areas where our companions can exercise and play. Each zone is designed for different types of activities. The big ones need more space, of course. Boram continued on his way, leaving the warriors to imagine what kind of exercise areas were needed for 67 battle beasts. The implications were horrifying. Commander, Krixtal whispered, if they have specialized training areas for their creatures, this might be more serious than we thought. They're not just keeping battle beasts, they're actively training them. The group passed several closed doors marked with strange symbols. From behind one door came a sound that made every warrior freeze, a low, rumbling growl that spoke of massive size and dangerous intent. What was that? One of the younger warriors asked, his voice barely controlled. Hei-Wan looked back at the door with a fond smile. Oh, that's probably Min Su. He's our biggest companion. Don't worry, he's just talking. He always gets vocal. When he knows visitors are aboard. Talking. The sound they had heard was clearly a threat display from a large predator. How did these humans survive sharing a ship with creatures that viewed them as potential threats? They passed another door, and this time they heard multiple voices, high-pitched sounds that could only be described as pack coordination calls. The creatures behind that door were organizing themselves, possibly preparing for an attack. The smaller ones are in there, Hei-Wan explained, noticing their stares. They tend to get excited together. Very social creatures. Social predators were often the most dangerous kind. They coordinated attacks, shared information, and could overwhelm even heavily armed opponents through sheer numbers and intelligence. As they neared the conference room, they passed what appeared to be a medical station. Through the open door, they could see young Ho-Nam working with strange equipment. On the walls were charts showing the anatomy of various creatures with sharp teeth, powerful claws, and muscular builds designed for killing. Medical station? Nalthos asked. Yes, Hei-Wan said. Young-Ho specializes in companion care. He makes sure everyone stays healthy and happy. It's actually quite complex work. Each companion has different needs. The warriors exchanged more worried looks. The humans had a medical specialist dedicated to keeping their battle beasts in peak fighting condition. This was military-level creature management. Finally, they reached the conference room doors. Before entering, Vexthul turned to his warriors and spoke in their native language. Stay alert. These humans are more sophisticated than our intelligence, suggested. They're running a military operation disguised as a peaceful mission. 67 trained battle beasts, specialized medical care, dedicated training facilities. This is a warship pretending to be an exploration vessel. The doors opened, and they stepped into the conference room. Captain Ji-Woo Park stood waiting for them along with Tae-min Kim. Both humans smiled warmly and gestured to chairs arranged around a simple table. What the coalition warriors didn't realize was that everything they had interpreted as military preparation was actually something completely different. They were about to discover that the gap between their understanding and human reality was wider than the space between stars. The sounds, the smells, the companion zones, and the medical care. None of it was what they thought it was. The conference room was bright and welcoming, with soft chairs and a table made from real wood. Captain Ji-Woo Park stood at the head of the table, her uniform crisp and her manner professional yet friendly. Tae-min Kim sat beside her, still, wearing that strange human expression of happiness. "Please sit wherever you're comfortable," Ji-Woo said, gesturing to the chairs. "We're truly honored to meet representatives of the coalition." Commander Vex Thule and his warriors remained standing, their weapons ready. The room had too many entrances, too many places where attack creatures could emerge. Every military instinct told them this was a trap. "We prefer to stand," Vex Thule said. "For security reasons." "Of course," Ji-Woo replied, not seeming offended. "We understand. This must be as strange for you as it is for us." Sub-Commander Nalthos stepped forward. "Your ship carries an unusual number of life forms. Our scans detected 67 additional creatures aboard." Tae-min's face lit up with genuine excitement. "Oh, you picked up our companions, that's wonderful. Some of our crew were worried they might be scared by your ship's presence, but they seem to be handling it well." "Scared?" Krixtal asked. The idea that battle beasts would be scared of anything seemed impossible. "Well, yes," Tae-min explained. "Sudden changes can be stressful for them. New sounds, unfamiliar energy signatures from your ship, different routine schedules. We've been trying to keep everything as normal as possible." The warriors exchanged glances. Were the humans saying their battle beasts were sensitive to stress? Captain Ji-Woo opened a folder on the table. "Would you like to know more about our mission? We're explorers and researchers. Our goal is to learn about other species and share knowledge." "What kind of research?" Vex Thule asked, suspicion clear in his voice. "Mainly biological and cultural studies," Ji-Woo replied. "Tae-min, here is our xenobiologist. He specializes in understanding how different species interact with their environments." Before anyone could respond, the conference room doors burst open. Every coalition warrior spun toward the threat, weapons raised and ready to fire. What they saw made their minds struggle to process reality. A small human child ran into the room, laughing and calling out, "Mochi, come back here." Behind her bounded a creature that made the warriors' blood freeze. It was golden-colored, about the size of a large combat animal, with a mouth full of sharp white teeth and powerful legs built for running. The creature's eyes focused on the child with predatory intensity. "No," whispered Krixtal, raising his weapon. The child. But what happened next defied everything they knew about predator behavior. Instead of attacking, the creature reached the child and immediately dropped to the ground, rolling onto its back. Its tongue hung out as it made happy panting sounds. The 12-year-old human girl, So Young-han, immediately dropped down and began rubbing the creature's exposed belly. The predator's leg kicked in the air with apparent joy. "Got you, silly," So Young giggled. "You can't escape belly rub time." Every coalition warrior stood frozen, weapons forgotten. Their training had prepared them for many things, but not for this. A Deathworld apex predator voluntarily exposing its most vulnerable spot to an even smaller predator who then petted it. "Sorry about that," So Young said, finally noticing the alien visitors. "Mochi gets excited when there are new people on the ship. She loves meeting friends." The creature, Mochi, rolled back over and sat next to the child, its tongue still hanging out. Its tail moved back and forth in what could only be described as happiness. Commander Vex Thule's 4 hands shook. His weapon felt useless in his grip. The creature," he managed to say. "It submitted to the child." "Submitted?" So Young looked confused. "Oh, you mean how she likes belly rubs? All dogs love belly rubs. It means they trust you." Dogs. The humans had a name for these creatures, and apparently exposing their vulnerable areas was a sign of trust? Taemin smiled apologetically. So young, you should probably take Mochi back to your family's quarters. The diplomatic meeting needs to continue. Okay, So Young said cheerfully. She looked at the frozen warriors and waved. Nice to meet you. I hope you get to meet all our companions while you're here. She started to leave, then stopped. Oh, and don't worry if you hear Shadow barking later. He's not angry, he just gets excited during playtime. He's way bigger than Mochi, but he's super gentle. With that, the child and the creature left the room, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than the vacuum of space. Shadow? Nalthos asked weakly. Another companion, Captain Jiwoo explained, as if this was the most normal thing in the universe. He's a German Shepherd, bigger than Mochi, but equally friendly. German Shepherd? It's a breed of dog. Very loyal. Very protective of their families. The word protective sent chills through the warriors. These creatures were protective of the humans, not hunting with them, but actually guarding them. Before anyone could process this information, another human entered the room. This one wore a medical uniform and carried a small bag. Sorry to interrupt, the newcomer said. I'm Seok Jin Yoon, ship's veterinarian. I just wanted to let you know that Shadow's checkup went well. He's cleared for full activity. Veterinarian? The coalition warriors had never heard this word before. What? Is a veterinarian? Vexthul asked. Seok Jin smiled. I'm a doctor who takes care of animals. I make sure all our companions stay healthy and happy. You heal them? Of course. Regular checkups, vaccinations, dental care, surgery if needed. Just like human doctors, but specialized for different species. The implications hit the warriors, like a plasma blast. Not only did these humans live alongside dangerous predators, they actually cared for their health. They had dedicated medical professionals whose only job was keeping the creatures in good condition. Seok Jin continued, I should mention that feeding time has been moved to after your meeting. Some of the companions were getting anxious about the schedule change, but they're adapting well. Feeding time, Krixtal repeated numbly. Yes, dinner for everyone. We have specialized diets for each companion based on their needs. The cats get different food than the dogs, of course. Cats? There were more types of these creatures? As if summoned by the mention of its kind, a small four-legged creature appeared in the doorway. It was much smaller than the dog they had seen, with pointed ears and bright green eyes. It made a soft sound that the translator interpreted as a greeting. Oh, hello, Whiskers, Taemin said fondly. This is Captain Park's companion. She must have gotten curious about our visitors. The creature, called Whiskers, walked calmly into the room and sat down, looking at the coalition warriors with intelligent eyes. Its behavior was completely relaxed, showing no fear of the heavily armed aliens. Commander Vexthul stared at the small creature. According to his scanner, it was definitely a predator. He could see the retractable claws and sharp teeth, but it just sat there, calmly observing them like it was curious. Your companions, he said slowly. They live freely throughout your ship? Where else would they live? Captain Jiwoo asked, genuinely puzzled. This is their home too. The word home echoed in the silence. These weren't battle beasts or hunting partners or military assets. The humans considered these predators to be family members. The revelation hit the warriors like a shockwave. Everything they had interpreted as military preparation, the feeding schedules, the medical care, the specialized areas, it was all because these humans actually cared about these creatures' well-being. But why? And how was it possible? The questions hung in the air as more sounds echoed through the ship's corridors. Now the coalition warriors were beginning to understand that those weren't battle cries or territorial challenges. They were hearing. They were the sounds of creatures who felt safe, loved, and at home. The conference room felt smaller now, filled with questions that had no answers in any coalition database. Commander Vexthul watched the small creature called Whiskers as it cleaned its paw with delicate movements. Every instinct told him this was a predator, yet it acted completely at ease around potential prey. I think, Captain Jiwoo said gently, There might be some confusion about our companions. Would you like to meet more of them? It might help you understand. That would be. Vexthul paused, trying to find the right words. Educational. The captain pressed a button on the table. Boram, could you bring Princess to the conference room, and maybe ask Garam to join us? Within minutes, the door opened again. A human man entered, leading the largest predator the coalition warriors had ever seen up close. The creature was massive, with thick fur and piercing blue eyes. Its mouth hung open, showing teeth that could easily tear through armor. Behind them came another human carrying a bag that smelled strongly of meat. Everyone, Captain Jiwoo said, meet Princess and her human Hyunwoo Jang, and this is Garam Song, our ship's cook. The warrior Krixtal took several steps backward. His weapon tracking systems automatically locked onto the large creature. That's enormous. Princess is a Siberian husky, Hyunwoo explained proudly. She's bred for cold weather and hard work. Very strong, very intelligent. Princess looked at the coalition warriors with calm interest. Her tail moved slowly back and forth, and she made a soft sound that the translators couldn't interpret. She's saying hello, Hyunwoo said with a smile. She's curious about you, but not worried. Princess is very good with new people. Garam opened his bag and pulled out what looked like small pieces of meat. Would you like to see feeding time? It might help you understand how we interact with our companions. Feeding time, Nalthos repeated. The word still carried ominous meaning in his mind. Princess, sit, Hyunwoo said. The massive predator immediately dropped into a sitting position, looking up at Hyunwoo with complete attention. Every coalition warrior tensed, expecting some kind of command or attack signal. Instead, Hyunwoo reached into Garam's bag and pulled out a small piece of meat. Good girl, Princess, here's your treat. He held the meat out to the creature. Princess took it carefully from his fingers, chewing thoughtfully before swallowing. Again? Hyunwoo asked. Princess made another soft sound and sat up straighter. She's asking politely, Garam explained to the stunned warriors. We've taught all our companions to ask nicely for food instead of taking it aggressively. The implications were staggering. These humans had trained apex predators to ask permission for food. How? Krixtal whispered. Positive reinforcement, Hyunwoo said. When Princess does something we like, we give her rewards. Food, praise, playtime. She's learned that being polite gets her what she wants. But, Vexthul struggled to understand, she could simply take the food by force. She's easily strong enough to overpower you. Hyunwoo looked genuinely confused by the question. Why would she do that? We feed her every day, give her everything she needs. She knows we'll take care of her. The concept was alien to everything the coalition understood about predator relationships. In their experience, the strong took what they wanted from the weak. But here was a creature strong enough to dominate its environment, choosing instead to ask politely for food. There's something else, Garam said, pulling out a smaller bag. We also have smaller companions. He reached into the bag and carefully lifted out a tiny creature. It was no bigger than his hand, with soft gray fur and bright, intelligent eyes. This is Einstein, Garam said. He's a domesticated rat. He helps Hyunwoo with maintenance work. Several coalition warriors instinctively reached for their weapons. Rats were known throughout the galaxy as pests, disease carriers, creatures that invaded ships and caused damage. But this rat sat calmly in Garam's palm, looking around with curious eyes. When it saw Hyunwoo, it made small squeaking sounds. He recognizes you, Garam told Hyunwoo. He's excited to see you. Einstein is brilliant, Hyunwoo explained. He can crawl through small spaces in the ship's ventilation system and tell us if there are problems. He's found 3 potential system failures that our sensors missed. The rat works with you? Sub-Commander Nalthos asked in disbelief. Not just works with us. He enjoys it. Watch this. Hyunwoo held out his hand and Einstein immediately scrambled from Garam's palm to Hyunwoo's. The tiny creature ran up Hyunwoo's arm and perched on his shoulder, looking very pleased with himself. He trusts you completely, Vexthul observed. Trust is the foundation of everything, Captain Jiwoo said quietly. Our companions trust us to take care of them, and we trust them to be part of our family. Family. There was that word again. The door opened once more and another human entered. This one looked tired but happy, carrying a larger creature in her arms. Sorry I'm late, she said. Luna needed her medicine and she doesn't like taking pills. The creature in her arms was clearly another dog, but this one was different from the others they had seen. Its fur was patchy in places, and one of its legs seemed stiff. This is Dr. Min-Ho Kang, our anthropologist, Captain Jiwoo explained. And Luna is her companion. Luna is a rescue, Min-Ho said, settling into a chair with the dog still in her arms. When we found her, she had been hurt badly by people who didn't understand how to treat animals properly. The coalition warriors watched as Luna looked up at Min-Ho with absolute devotion. Despite her obvious past injuries, the creature seemed completely at peace. She was afraid of humans when we first found her, Min-Ho continued. She had every reason to fear us, to hate us. But with time, patience, and care, she learned to trust again. The creature was afraid? Vexthul asked. Very afraid. She wouldn't let anyone touch her, wouldn't eat when people were around. It took months of gentle care before she felt safe. This was beyond the Coalition's understanding. A predator that had been mistreated by its own species but still learned to trust them again? It defied every principle of animal behavior they knew. Krikstal, who had remained silent for most of the encounter, suddenly spoke. Commander, I need to sit down. The veteran warrior, who had fought in 12 planetary campaigns, slowly lowered himself into a chair. His face had gone pale and his hands shook slightly. This is impossible, he whispered. Everything we know about predator relationships, about survival instincts, about the strong and the weak, none of it applies here. Princess, as if sensing distress, walked over to Krikstal and gently rested her large head near his knee. She looked up at him with kind eyes. She's trying to comfort you, Hyunwoo explained. Dogs are very good at sensing when someone is upset. Princess wants to help you feel better. Krikstal stared down at the creature that could easily kill him but instead was offering comfort. A single tear rolled down his armored cheek. How? He asked. How is any of this possible? Captain Jiwoo leaned forward in her chair. Would you like the real answer? The one that might change everything you think you know about strength and survival? All the coalition warriors nodded even though they weren't sure they were ready for the truth. Love, Jiwoo said simply. We love our companions, and they love us back. Not because they have to, not because we force them to, but because they choose to. And that choice, that bond, makes all of us stronger than we could ever be alone. The word hung in the air like a challenge to everything the Coalition had ever believed about power, control, and survival. Love. Such a simple word, but apparently it could tame apex predators and turn enemies into family. Hours had passed since the Coalition warriors first boarded the human ship. Commander Vexthul sat in the observation lounge, watching through the large windows as his own dreadnought waited in the distance. His mind struggled to process everything he had witnessed. Around him, his warriors were having their own quiet conversations with the human crew members. The formal diplomatic meeting had ended, but nobody seemed ready to leave. Too many questions remained unanswered. Krikstal sat nearby, Princess lying peacefully at his feet. The massive dog had refused to leave his side after sensing his distress. Every few minutes she would lift her head to check on him, then settle back down with a contented sigh. I don't understand, Krikstal said quietly. In all my battles, in all the species I've encountered, strength always meant dominance. The strong survived by controlling the weak. Dr. Min-Ho Kang approached them, Luna walking slowly beside her on a soft lead. The injured dog moved carefully but seemed happy to be exploring. May I sit with you? Min-Ho asked. Vexthul nodded and she settled into a nearby chair. Luna immediately lay down, positioning herself where she could see both Min-Ho and the Coalition warriors. You're struggling with what you've seen today, Min-Ho observed. It challenges everything your society has taught you about survival. Yes, Vexthul admitted. We've built our entire civilization on the principle that the strong must dominate to survive. But your species, you've done something we thought was impossible. What's that? You've made strength and gentleness work together. Minho smiled and gently stroked Luna's head. The dog's tail moved slowly, showing contentment despite her old injuries. Luna taught me something important, Minho said. When we first found her, I thought the solution was to show her that humans could be stronger than whatever had hurt her. I thought she needed to see our power. She paused, looking down at her companion with obvious love. But that wasn't what she needed at all. She needed to see that strength could be used to protect instead of harm. That power could create safety instead of fear. Sub-Commander Nalthos had been listening from across the room. He approached slowly, careful not to startle Luna. But how do you maintain discipline? How do you prevent chaos if your creatures don't fear you? They don't need to fear us, came a voice from the doorway. Captain Jiwoo Park entered, followed by So Young Han and Mochi. Discipline and respect aren't the same as fear, Jiwoo continued. Our companions follow our guidance because they trust us to make good decisions for the family. Family, Vexthul repeated. The word had become important during their visit, but he still didn't fully understand its meaning in this context. So Young Han, the human child, looked up at the tall alien commander. Would you like to pet Mochi? She really likes you. Every warrior instinct told Vexthul to refuse. This was still a predator, still dangerous despite its apparent friendliness. But something in the child's innocent confidence made him hesitate. I don't know how, he admitted. It's easy, So Young said. Just hold your hand out so she can smell you first. That's how dogs say hello. Slowly, carefully, Vexthul extended one of his 4 hands. Mochi stepped forward and sniffed his fingers, delicately. Then to his amazement, she gently pressed her head against his palm. She likes you, So Young said happily. Now you can pet her head or behind her ears. Dogs love that. With movements more careful than any he had ever used in battle, Vexthul stroked the golden fur. Mochi's tail wagged enthusiastically and she made a sound of pure contentment. For the first time in his military career, Commander Vexthul felt tears in his eyes. This is peaceful, he whispered. That's the point, Captain Jiwoo said gently. Peace isn't weakness. It's what happens when everyone feels safe and cared for. The ship's communication system chimed softly. Captain Park, to the bridge, please. Admiral Dalthor is requesting a status report. Jiwoo nodded to her guests. I need to speak with your command. Will you be staying longer? Vexthul looked around the room. His warriors were scattered throughout the space, each having quiet conversations with humans and their companions. Some were asking questions about training techniques. Others were simply watching in fascination as the various creatures interacted, with their human families, I think, he said slowly. We need more time to understand what we've learned here. Of course. Take all the time you need. As the captain left for the bridge, Vexthul found himself alone with his thoughts in the gentle presence of Mochi, who had settled down beside his chair. His communicator buzzed. It was a direct line to Admiral Dalthor. Commander Vexthul, the Admiral's stern voice filled the room. Report your status immediately. You've been aboard that Deathworld vessel for over 6 hours. Vexthul looked around the room one more time. His warriors were safe, relaxed even. The humans were treating them like honored guests. The dangerous predators were offering comfort and companionship. Admiral, he said carefully, I need to file a preliminary report that challenges our classification of this species. Explain. Sir, these humans are not what our databases predicted. They are definitely from a death world, and they do share their environment with apex predators. But they haven't conquered these creatures through dominance. Then how do they control them? Vexthul looked down at Mochi, who was now sleeping peacefully beside his chair, completely trusting and content. They don't control them, sir. They love them. And somehow that love is returned. These predators choose to be gentle because they feel safe and cared for. The silence on the other end of the communication lasted for nearly a minute. Commander, Admiral Dalthor said finally, That is impossible according to every behavioral study we've ever conducted. Yes, sir. That's what I thought too. But I'm watching it happen right now. Another pause. Are you requesting additional time for observation? Yes, sir. I believe this discovery could change our understanding of interspecies relations throughout the galaxy. Granted, but Vexthal, be careful. Just because they appear peaceful doesn't mean they aren't dangerous. The communication ended and Vexthal sat back in his chair. Around him, the impossible continued to unfold. Humans and creatures that should have been enemies instead living as family. Strength being used to protect rather than dominate. Love, creating bonds stronger than fear ever could. Young So-Young Han appeared beside him again, this time carrying a small gray creature. This is Whiskers, she said. She's Captain Park's cat. She wants to meet you too. The cat looked at him with intelligent green eyes, then made a soft sound that his translator interpreted as a greeting. Hello, Whiskers, Vexthal said, surprised by how natural it felt to speak to the creature. As if understanding, Whiskers purred softly. For the first time in his life, Commander Vexthal began to wonder if the Coalition's definition of strength was too narrow. Maybe the greatest warriors weren't those who inspired fear, but those who inspired love and loyalty. Maybe these humans, with their impossible companions and their gentle strength, weren't just survivors of a death world. Maybe they were teachers, who could show the galaxy a better way to live. Outside the windows, the stars continued their ancient dance, but inside the human ship, something new was being born. An understanding that would eventually spread throughout the Coalition and beyond. The realization that true strength came not from the power to destroy, but from the courage to love and protect. And it had all started with what Deathworlders called pets.